An AI model launched on Monday. By Friday evening, it was gone. Not because users got bored, not because the servers crashed, and not because the company quietly changed its mind. Anthropic said the US government ordered it to pull access to Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5, only days after Fable 5 became available. That is the strange part. A chatbot model did not just get patched. It was treated like a strategic capability that might need to be kept away from certain people. So the real question is not just, why did Fable 5 disappear? The bigger question is, who gets to decide when an AI model is too powerful to stay online? And if your business, your coding workflow, or your product depends on API access to a frontier model, what happens when a government order can switch that model off overnight? Here is the simple version of what happened. On June 9, 2026, Anthropic announced Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5. Fable 5 was the version ordinary customers and developers were supposed to use. Mythos 5 was the more restricted version, aimed at trusted cyber defenders and certain high-value research use cases. Anthropic described them as the same underlying model, but with different safety controls. Think of it like the same engine in two different vehicles. One is allowed on public roads with speed limits and safety systems. The other is allowed on a closed test track with trained operators, because it can do things that would be risky in normal traffic. That analogy is not perfect, but it gets the key idea right. The concern was not that Fable 5 could write emails or summarize documents. The concern was that underneath the public version, there were very strong capabilities in areas like cybersecurity and biological research. Those areas are dual use. The same kind of skill that helps a defender find a software flaw can help an attacker find one. The same kind of reasoning that helps a lab explore biology can become sensitive if used in the wrong direction. Anthropic's plan was to separate access with safeguards. Fable 5 was the public model with guardrails. Mythos 5 was the restricted model with some safeguards lifted for vetted users. In public, this looked like a product launch. Behind the scenes, it was also a test of whether advanced AI can be split into safe public capability and controlled specialist capability. Then, on June 12, Anthropic said it received a US export control directive. The company said the order required it to suspend access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 by any foreign national, whether inside or outside the United States, including foreign national Anthropic employees. That last part matters. This was not only about blocking logins from other countries. In export control logic, a transfer can sometimes happen when a foreign person gets access to a controlled technology, even if that person is physically inside the United States. For cloud AI, that creates a very awkward problem. A model is not a box sitting at a border checkpoint. It is a service. A user sends text to an API. The model produces output. The user could be in another country, behind a company account, inside a contractor network, or working for a US firm while not being a US person. If the rule says certain people cannot access the model, the provider suddenly needs identity checks, location checks, employee access controls, customer screening, audit logs, and maybe license systems. If those systems are not ready, the safest legal move may be to turn the model off for everyone. That is what Anthropic said it had to do. This is why the Fable 5 takedown feels different from an ordinary software outage. A normal app outage says something broke. This says the model itself may be regulated as a national security object. Before we go deeper, if you like clear explanations of AI, crypto, and future tech without the hype fog, subscribe. Stories like this are exactly where the future stops being abstract and starts touching real products people use. Now, let's talk about the word that made this whole thing explode: jailbreak. A jailbreak, in AI, is a way of getting a model to ignore or bypass some of its safety rules. It is not always one magic phrase. It can be a pattern of interaction, a clever setup, a tool workflow, or a way of framing a task so the model behaves as if the guardrails are not there. But not all jailbreaks are equal. A narrow jailbreak might work in a specific situation. It may produce a limited answer or expose a small slice of capability. A universal jailbreak is much more serious. That would be a general method that breaks the safety layer across many dangerous tasks. Anthropic's public position was that the evidence it had seen did not show a universal jailbreak. The company said its safeguards had been heavily tested, that perfect jailbreak resistance is probably not possible for any model provider, and that its approach was defense in depth. Defense in depth means you do not rely on a single lock. You use multiple layers. You have guardrails. You have classifiers that detect sensitive requests. You have monitoring. You retain some data for safety review. You investigate suspicious patterns. If one layer fails, another layer is supposed to reduce the damage. According to Anthropic, the government's concern appeared to involve a narrower method that showed the model helping identify some previously known and minor software vulnerabilities. Anthropic argued that similar results were already possible with other public models, and did not justify pulling a commercial model used by large numbers of people. The government side, as reported by outlets covering the dispute, saw the situation differently. The concern was that the public version might expose capabilities that were supposed to remain restricted, especially in cybersecurity. If a safeguard can be bypassed, even partly, then the difference between Fable 5 and Mythos 5 becomes less meaningful. This is the core disagreement. Anthropic seemed to be saying, the risk is real, but manageable with layered safeguards and monitoring. The government seemed to be saying, if the model crosses a national security threshold, and if restricted capability may leak through the public version, access has to stop until the risk is resolved. Notice what this is not. It is not proof that the model became conscious. It is not proof that one prompt could instantly hack the internet. It is not proof that Anthropic built a superweapon. And it is not just a story about one company being embarrassed. It is a story about where the control layer around AI is moving. For years, most people thought of AI models like apps. A company builds a product. Users sign up. The company sets the terms of service. If something goes wrong, the company changes the model, changes the policy, or adds a filter. Fable 5 suggests a different mental model. A frontier model may be treated more like regulated infrastructure, not exactly like a nuclear facility, and not exactly like a chip factory, but closer to that category than to a note-taking app. The reason is capability. The more a model can do, the less it looks like just a piece of software. If it can autonomously write and test code, reason across huge code bases, assist with vulnerability discovery, analyze technical documents, use tools, and support specialized research, then access to the model becomes access to a broad bundle of expert labor. That bundle can be useful. It can help defenders patch systems faster. It can help companies modernize old software. It can help scientists explore ideas. It can help small teams do work that once required large teams. But the same generality creates the governance problem. You cannot easily draw a clean line around one dangerous skill. The model does not have a cybersecurity chip you can remove. The same reasoning that helps write secure code can help understand insecure code. The same tool use that helps automate testing can help automate abuse if the safeguards fail. So the industry has been trying to build a layered control system. At the model level, developers train the model to refuse certain harmful requests. At the product level, companies add classifiers and filters that detect risky topics. At the account level, they restrict some capabilities to trusted customers. At the monitoring level, they look for patterns that suggest misuse, like repeated attempts to get around safety systems. At the data policy level, they may retain logs for a limited time, so they can investigate attacks against the safeguards. And now, at the government level, there may be export controls, licensing, audits, and emergency intervention. That is the new stack. Model behavior at the bottom, government authority at the top. The Fable 5 incident matters because it showed that the top layer is no longer theoretical. If regulators believe a model has crossed a line, they may not wait for a long public rulemaking process. They may use existing national security tools. They may target a model by name. They may restrict access by nationality. And the company may have to comply before customers understand what happened. That creates a serious problem for businesses. Imagine you built an AI coding tool on top of Fable 5. Your users chose your product because the model could handle long, complicated software projects. You priced your service around that performance. Your onboarding materials mention it. Your agents depend on it. Then the model is gone. Not degraded, not rate limited. Gone. You can switch to another model, but the behavior changes. Cost change. Quality changes. Some workflows break. Your customers do not care that the reason is an export control directive. They care that the button stopped working. This is platform risk. Developers already understand platform risk from app stores, cloud providers, payment processors, and social networks. If you build on someone else's platform, you inherit their rules and their outages. With Frontier AI, you also inherit their regulatory exposure. That does not mean everyone should abandon API models. It means serious users need a backup plan. They need model abstraction, fallback options, careful promises to customers, and a clear understanding that access to the most advanced model may not be guaranteed. There is also a bigger public question. If a private company alone decides whether a model is safe, we are trusting a business with massive incentives to launch fast, win customers, and stay ahead of competitors. If the government alone decides, we may get secretive decisions with limited public explanation, uneven enforcement, and sudden disruptions. Neither option is comfortable. The hard problem is building a process that is technically informed, fast enough to handle real risks, and transparent enough that people can trust it. That might mean pre-deployment testing by outside experts. It might mean clearer thresholds for when a model is considered too capable for general release. It might mean licenses for certain model classes. It might mean stronger identity verification for restricted access. It might mean independent audits of jailbreak claims before a model is pulled. But every answer has trade-offs. Too little oversight and powerful capabilities may spread faster than society can adapt. Too much blunt oversight and useful defensive tools may be delayed or concentrated in the hands of a few large players. If only giant companies can afford compliance, regulation can accidentally make the biggest labs even more powerful. If controls only apply in one country, users may move to foreign or open models with fewer safeguards. If governments rely on private competitors to report risks, companies may suspect that safety claims are mixed with business strategy. And if the public never sees enough evidence, every intervention becomes a trust exercise. That is why the alleged jailbreak is only part of the story. The deeper issue is the lack of a settled rulebook. What evidence should trigger a takedown? Does a narrow jailbreak count, or only a universal one? Who verifies the claim? How fast should the company have to respond? Should customers get notice? Should foreign researchers be blocked entirely? Or can vetted access work? Can a public model be safe if it is built on the same base system as a restricted model? These are no longer philosophy questions. They are product questions. They are business continuity questions. They are national security questions. The most important misunderstanding to avoid is thinking this is only about Claude. Claude Fable 5 may be the name in the headline, but the pattern can apply to any frontier model that reaches sensitive capability thresholds. OpenAI, Google, Meta, xAI, startups, cloud providers, and open model communities all face versions of the same issue. As models improve, the line between ordinary software and strategic capability gets blurrier. A spreadsheet app helps you calculate. A frontier model may help you plan, code, test, research, automate, and persuade. It can be plugged into tools. It can run inside business processes. It can produce work at machine speed. That is why the question of access becomes political. Not because every use is dangerous. Most uses are ordinary, but because the same system can serve many roles at once. So the new mental model is this. Frontier AI models are not just apps. They are becoming capability platforms. A capability platform has users, developers, safeguards, monitoring, identity controls, and government pressure around it. It can be opened, restricted, licensed, audited, or shut down. For everyday users, this means the best model may not always be the most available model. For developers, it means resilience matters. Do not build as if one API will always exist in the same form. For policymakers, it means emergency takedowns are not a substitute for a clear process. For the public, it means AI safety debates are moving from abstract warnings to concrete control decisions. The Fable 5 takedown may turn out to be a temporary fight, a misunderstanding, or the beginning of a formal new system for governing frontier models. We do not know yet. But we do know what changed. A model launched. A government intervened. A company complied while disagreeing. Customers lost access. And the world got a preview of a future where the most advanced AI systems are treated less like downloadable software and more like controlled infrastructure. That is the real frontier. Not just making models smarter. Deciding who gets to use them, under what rules, and who has the authority to pull the plug. If you have questions about Fable 5, export controls, jailbreaks, or the future of regulated AI models, leave them in the comments. And if there is another AI or future tech story you want explained next, suggest it below.